Are we set? All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is no longer news that the world is experiencing one of the most severe public health crises of the last century. I am of course talking about the coronavirus pandemic. This health crisis has been more severe than its predecessors due to globalization, of course. Nigeria, and indeed Cross River State, is not left out of this crisis. What started out as an outbreak in Wuhan, China in December last year grew rapidly to an epidemic and eventually, ultimately, into a pandemic. This has caused untold hardship across the world and has consolidated into a global economic crisis. This economic crisis has had its attendant effects, negative attendant effects, on the GDP of nations, on employment, as well as a contraction of the economy, especially Nigeria and Cross River. Consequently, the Cross River State government, led by His Excellency Senator Professor Ben Ayade, had thought it imperative to do a couple of economic policies and measures in order to forestall this hardship and to cushion the effects of the pandemic. Number one, the Cross River State government has reviewed its 2020 budget and amended it in line with current economic realities. The budget review exercise had the participation and input of all the MDAs in the state, as well as the civil society organizations in the state. This budget has been submitted to the House of Assembly for its consideration, its review, and possible resolution. The budget as submitted has a revised figure of 147,130,166,966 naira. The figure is 147,130,166,966 naira. That is the amended budget figure for 2020. This budget has been submitted to the House of Assembly for its review, its consideration, and resolution. While engaging in the budgeting process, the Department of Budget, headed by the Special Advisor, the Finance Cluster, took into consideration four main things during the process. We took into consideration the downward projected Federation revenues, especially the Cross River State's projected statutory revenue allocation from the Federation accounts. We also took into consideration a reduction in non-priority capital and recurrent expenditures. Thirdly, we focused on allocating a lot of expenditure to COVID-19 response programs and exercises, which are targeted on relief, restructuring, and recovery from the pandemic. The COVID-19 response budget items are marked at 16.3% of the amended budget. Fourth and finally, okay, that's gone off. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Fine. All right, so finally, we expressly identified and stated the financing sources to fully finance the budget deficit without accumulation of new domestic arrears. Those were the four things that we expressly did under this amended budget exercise. The second initiative, in order to cushion the effects of the pandemic, especially the economic issues, the Cross River State government, led again once by His Excellency Senator Professor Ben Ayade, formulated tax breaks and reliefs, tax palliatives if you will, to businesses and individuals operating and residents in Cross River State. This was done to cushion the negative impact of the pandemic. While giving these breaks, the service will be ensuring that it strengthens the collection modalities to eliminate leakages, as well as developing its database and strengthening the possible revenues from the land and associated revenue streams. The chairman of the Internal Revenue Service, who's seated by my right, will provide a much deeper, in-depth review of the specific tax palliatives that have been granted. Thank you very much, and I'll hand over to the chairman.
Thank you very much. Member of the Committee on Finance, Mr. Chair, Cross River State Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Fakioga, has the floor. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Honorable Commissioner for Finance, Permanent Secretary is here present, Chairman and members of the Calabar Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mines and Agriculture, Halsima, management of the staff of the Cross River Internal Revenue Service, representatives of invited stakeholders, gentlemen and gentlewomen of the press. Good morning, everybody. Permit me on behalf of the management and staff of the Cross River Internal Revenue Service, CRIRS, to welcome you to this press briefing on the package of reliefs and incentives approved for individual taxpayers and businesses in the state by His Excellency Senator Professor Sir Ben Ayade, the Executive Governor of Cross River State. Following the state government's desire to cushion the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on Cross Riverians and all taxpayers resident in the state, the CRIRS, with the kind approval of His Excellency Senator Professor Sir Ben Ayade, the Executive Governor of Cross River State, wishes to announce the following tax relief for individual taxpayers and businesses. Number 1, individuals in the public sector under the Pay-as-you-earn scheme, PAYE, earning less than 100,000 naira monthly are granted tax relief from personal income tax in line with provisions of the Cross River State Tax Exemption Law of 2015 and accompanying regulations. 2, self-employed persons, artisans, hawkers, okada riders, tricycle riders, okeke napep, taxi drivers, petty shops, barbing, hairdressing, salon owners, restaurants and eateries, etc., and others under presumptive tax regime are granted tax relief in line with provisions of the Cross River State Tax Exemption Law of 2015 and accompanying regulations. As we move on along, we'll zero down on that. Number 3, the deadline for submission of returns for personal income tax, Form A, by taxing persons in the state for the 2019 tax year has been extended from 31st of March 2020 to the 30th of September 2020. Number 4, the deadline of submission of pay-as-you-earn PAYE annual returns by employers of labor in the state for the 2019 tax year has been extended from the 31st of January 2020 to the 30th of September 2020. Number 5, waivers are hereby granted on penalties and interest charged on all late pay monthly returns for the months of February to September 2020 for applicable taxpayers on case-by-case basis. Number 6, waivers are granted on penalties and interest charged on all outstanding tax liabilities for 2018 and 2019 assessments payable in 2020 on case-by-case basis. Number 7, taxpayers will be allowed to make installmental payments in 2020 for outstanding tax liabilities from 2018 to 2019 over a period not exceeding 6 months. Taxpayers can use the ultimate channels for payment of taxes and filing of annual and monthly returns. For details, visit our website www.crirs.ng. In line with Section 3, Subsection 1 of the Tax Exemption Law 2015, taxpayers who are qualified for exemption and relief for personal income taxes, as contained in this announcement, shall be required to 1, obtain tax identification numbers, 2, file annual returns in line with Section 41, Subsection 3 of the Personal Income Tax of 2004 as amended, C, fill a tax exemption form to enroll as beneficiaries. Please note that these forms are free. Further abatements has been granted on certain categories of levies, taxes and revenues collected by the state and local governments from 31st of March to 31st of December 2020. For details, visit our website crirs.ng. I'm just going to go through very quickly some of the taxes, rates and levies and describe the abatements. Tourism Development Levy. Ken is here. Kalsima. Okay, we're about to make you smile.
Yeah, very exciting. In fact, we expect a standing ovation at the end of this.
There will be 100% abatement from February to November 2020. This means that Tourism Development Levy, all operators, hotels, guest houses, etc., will not be required to pay tourism development levy between now, from February, effective February to November 2020. We pray that coronavirus will abate by then, so that after Calabar Carnival, people will start paying taxes again. Pay as you earn, tax exemptions for public servants earning 100,000 or less, in line with the tax exemption law of 2015. Direct assessment for individuals and small businesses, in line with the tax exemption law of 2015. The list that I read out, artisans and the rest, relevant sections will apply. Entry gate pass, full abatement from February to December 2020. Business premises registration, there will be 50% abatement effective February 2020 and running to December 2020. Business premises annual renewal will be full abatement effective February 2020 to December 2020. Economic development levy will be full abatement for the same period, February to December 2020. Cross River State Traffic Management Agency, Department of Public Transport, will be full abatement on DOPT daily tickets and DOPT interstate tickets effective February and running to December 2020. Commercial Traffic Regulatory Agency, there will be full abatement for daily operational tolls, daily ticket sales and fines and offences from February 2020 to December 2020. Cross River Signage and Advertisement Agency, there will be 50% abatement on the sale of registration forms, yearly renewals, new billboards and banners, and directional signs from February to December 2020. For the Ministry of Agriculture, there will be 50% abatement on livestock tax and registration of farmers from February to December 2020. For the Ministry of Environment, there's going to be a 50% abatement on sewage effluent discharge fee. 50%, please, let's note. On quarry pollution, sewage effluent discharge fee on hotelers, registration for economic impact assessments and emission controls. We're going to have 50% abatement. For the carbon emission taxes, there will be full abatement from February to December 2020. Ministry of Humanity and Social Welfare, revalidation of cooperative societies, there will be 50% abatement on the fees that are normally charged on that. For local government councils, for business rates for all categories of shops, number one, on and off liquor licenses, food license permits, market charges for all categories of market stalls, bicycle, truck, canoe, wheelbarrow and cart fees, loading and offloading fees, shops and kiosk rates will be 100% abatement, full abatement between February and December 2020. And finally, for the health certificate, clubs and association registration done by local governments, it will be 50% abatement till December 2020. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, visitors, respected stakeholders, thank you very much for listening. We'll take questions.
Thank you very much.
My name is Emil Phil, Nigeria. My first question is, you've actually talked about rebates, let me use that word, from February to November cases and tourism, and December cases. What happens to the levies, the taxes, the rates, the levies already collected? Because I'm aware that, some market women up till now still pay taxes or levies or rates. What happens to those ones already collected? Are you free? Or, are you returning to the people? Then my second question is, in all this reviews, all this, what you've done, is shrieing English, the entire process, how involved is the local government system? Because when it comes to enforcement, I think you have different enforcers. I don't know. But how involved was the local government in this entire process? Thank you.
Okay, my name is Richard Loma. I write for Leadership Newspaper. Chairman, you already said that people earning below 100,000 will no longer pay taxes. Yes, with the formation of the anti-tax agency, we believe that people that fall within this category will be exempted from taxes. But my worry is that what mechanism have we put in place to check the excesses of this tax collector? Because I give a typical example. I traveled to Econ last week. I went to the market. I saw people paying taxes. On my way back to Calabar, I stopped over at Yamujon to buy some dairy. I saw tax collectors collecting money from those market women who come to market and dairy. Even when I confronted one, I said, Madam, governor don't stop this thing. You see the do say for waiting, they stop here and here, stop. And they go about collecting money, harassing people. What do you have any mechanism put in place like a tax force to check the sense of these people, particularly at the local government level?
The Voice of Nigeria, for what has already been collected. Okay, so let me say, for instance, maybe Calabar Municipal, a lady paid 100 naira in March, or she went to market for 20 days and she had been paying. So you're asking if what happens then, whether Calabar Municipal will refund. So it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say. But the most important thing for us is that going forward, the government is taking this very, very seriously, and that there are specific, directives on how this is going to be implemented, so that all the suffering will be abated, to be reduced. That's all I can say for now. As the second question is involvement of local government, yes, there's continuous engagement in local government. On Monday, exactly a week from today, we're going to have a Just Rec meeting, a joint state revenue committee, where you will be invited, or be invited to cover, by grace of God. It's going to be high level representation, where we will engage. Let's not forget that we've not had local government for almost 6 years. They just came into office. So there is engagement with duly elected officers of local government councils, and it's continuous. Amen. Answer your question? Okay. The gentleman of Nikon.
Yes.
Okay, we're saying two things. Now, we are saying if you earn 100,000 or less, that's your personal income tax. It's very important to differentiate between taxes, levies, rates, fees, fines, offenses. You can go on and on and on. If you run a shop or you're inside the market and you're asked to pay a levy for sanitation by the local government or Buddha or waste management, as the case may be, the idea is that they are being levied because they are providing a service. They are levying so that the market is clean. If they charge you a fee, waste management charges you a fee for service, the service that is being provided for you. Now, if the market woman in Rwanda is asked to pay a levy by local governments, which under the law, local governments have the power, maybe they provide certain services, if maybe sanitation, keeping the place clean, maybe making sure that the fence is protection of their goods, etc., etc. It's not a tax per se. So, what we have said, His Excellency has said, to reduce the burden on people, because there have been plenty of complaints about harassment. You see very poor women being asked to pay so much money. Someone probably should be selling 2,000 naira a day, and then you ask her to pay 200 naira, that's 10% of the income in a day. So because of that, like we announced, market tolls have been abated, which means that market women are no longer to pay those market tolls. For the 100,000 under the tax exemption law, is personal income tax. If you as an individual, let's say you earn 100,000, you're a businessman, what we are saying here is, okay, let's look at the law. And you come and say, the governor said you shouldn't pay, or the government says don't pay because you earn less than 100,000. We'll look at the relevant provisions of the law and see if it applies to you. And like we said, we'll assess you. For instance, if I look at you now, I give you your annual returns form to fill. You make a declaration, you're a businessman, you earn 50,000. And then take a good look at you. So can I see your watch? If I look at the chain the guy is wearing. Gold. I look at your shoe. I say, this man can't be any less than 100,000. It's not possible. Oh, that is so much. So we'll assess you and say, okay, I think less than, if truly we determine that you earn less than 100,000, then relevant sections of the tax exemption of 2015 company regulations will now set you. So you will not be required to pay these taxes. So that's the difference. I hope we are clear, because there's a lot of misconception, a lot of misunderstanding. You talked about yes, you now talked about you witnessed cases of harassment. That's why it's excellency. Last year, the committee was the ministerial committee of security agencies was set up. Some of you may have, some of us who travel up and down, we observe a lot of illegal collections, harassment, and I call it extortion along the way, especially those of us from the northern and central parts. So they've been working. And His Excellency even took it a step further by setting up an anti-tax agency. Most of you were there at that event when he talked about revenue touting and this, and set a policy, made policy pronouncements. So the anti-tax agency is working with these agencies to ensure that all these miscreants and people will not continue to harass you.
What we are saying that they should also spread their tentacles to the local government.
Thank you very much, actually, for that very important question. I think that's actually the crux of the matter. His Excellency has been adamant on exempting poor and low-income households from paying tax. But in every system, whether it's corruption, whether it's crime, these vices always fight back. What you have to understand is, the people first of all have to understand their rights. And that begins with sensitization. And that's what we are doing here today. We've taken time out to sensitize the general public. And we are pleading with the media houses here and the institutions to do their work in disseminating this information, such that at the grassroots level, at the local level, at the state level, everyone understands their rights, that they are not meant to pay this. That's the first step. Obviously, there are people that are going to want to go out and continue the engagement of these collections, which we call extortion, because they are not coming to the state government anymore. So this is a criminal act. It is crime. And we are prepared to follow this to the full extent of the law. The service is working with the security agencies, which are going to be working with the anti-tax agencies, and we are going to pursue anyone who is collecting any taxes that has been said to be exempted or has been given relief. This is a criminal act, and we will treat it as robbery, we will treat it as a crime. Those people will be picked up, they will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Please. The most important thing here is enforcement, and that is why we are here. We're starting up with this sensitization so that those committing these crimes, first of all, know, and the victims also know their rights. There are numbers that have been put out for information, and we are going to pursue this to ensure that what His Excellency has issued out, what we have stated today, is implemented on ground. This will help to cushion the effects of this pandemic. We ask that the media houses, we ask that the citizens, the businesses operate and partner with the state in implementing this. Like I said just now, numbers will be issued out, emails will be given. If you are being given an assessment when you know that you are exempted, please communicate. We can only act on the information we are given. So we are asking that the general public, the media practitioners, partner with the Cross River State Government in helping us achieve this noble exercise. You see, when there's an increase in disposable income, that eventually can lead to increase in consumption, which helps in defending the local economy. That is the rationale. There's a humanitarian angle to it, there's an economic angle to it. So once again, we thank you and we ask for your partnership in this.
Thank you very much. Put your hands together for him. Ladies and gentlemen, right now I'd like to hear from Kalsima, and the president of Kalsima is here.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Let me stand on existing protocols already established here this morning. I'd like to commend the state governor through the commissioner and chairman of Cross River State Internal Revenue Service. This palliative can come at a better period than now, because we are all aware of the sufferings of our people due to the economic lockdown. On the taxes, Kalsima has engaged several times with IRS on tax laws, and we urge them that let's, with regular stakeholders, come and have a comprehensive reviews of the tax laws. We commend them especially on the tourism development levy, which we have made a case for severally, and we believe this is a step in the right direction, because right now most eateries are finding it hard to take off. Then finally, with all this, we know government is going to lose a lot of revenue, but we appeal to government, the little they are collecting, let them ensure that the leakages are reduced to the benefit and the good of Constituents. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, President Kalsima. On behalf of all the media practitioners here, I invite the chairperson of the NUJ, Comrade Victor Odu, to give us his remarks.
I'm particularly grateful that this event held. This is the second time we're meeting, particularly talking about finance directly, taxes and others. We are grateful that the government is taking these steps to see how perseverance can move ahead in these difficult times. I want to particularly thank the Commissioner for Finance for giving us this platform to listen to the state government. The chairman, IRS, has done a lot of job to see to the increase of internally generated revenue. It's not easy in this state. And to hear that amount that Cross River can get up to $1 billion, not to talk of the amount you have mentioned today, I think it is something that is worth celebrating. As a media organization, I want to promise the state government that we'll continue to partner. We'll continue to do our best to make sure that we work with them to see that the goals of this project are being achieved. All I will ask is that you keep your doors open when we want information, clarification. Because honestly, more questions might come after we leave here as members begin to write their reports. There might be the need to call you and ask questions. So please, be ready to volunteer information. And that note, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for coming here, particularly the Vice President of Joint of Editors who came in here. Represent Chronicle, I want to thank you for being here. I want to especially recognize my boss. I will always recognize him because he has proved to be a boss, the CEO and MD of GFM. Thank you so much for putting this together. God bless you.